Lecture is Tender is the Night by Francis Scott Fitzgerald. We have dealt earlier with his masterpiece that is considered the Great Gatsby. So, what do you remember about the Great Gatsby? The Great Gatsby is a masterpiece not only of Fitzgerald, but is a masterpiece. Is considered one of the best American novels. Because it explores really up to the core the real and the essential problems that characterized America of the 1920s. So, what were the main themes that Fitzgerald wrote about in his novels? I say his novels because almost all of his novels go around the same axis and the same topics and the same issues. So, Fitzgerald is considered as one of the main representatives of the lost generation. So, he, together with Gertrude Stein, with Ezra Pound, and Ernest Hemingway, were the main representative American writers of the lost generations. Were those writers who invested in war and came out of this war finding themselves that they had lost everything. They had lost their relatives, their work, all their affection. So the main theme that Fitzgerald has treated in The Great Gatsby, and not only, mainly in all of his novels, is the American dream. So he has explored deeply the achievement of the American dream. The American dream had this glittering, was shining from the outside, from the appearance, and people thought that America was the country where people, if people went there, they could achieve money and power immediately, where all their dreams could come true. But in fact, what did Fitzgerald explore in his novels? Did he take out this glittering outshine of the American society, or what? What did he explore in his novels? Okay, his novels were all about the American dream and the achievement of wealth and power. But was it real? Was it like that? So, if all of his life Fitzgerald was chasing the American dream, after he had achieved it, because part of his novels, I can't say all of his novels, but mostly, almost all of his novels are about the American dream and are autobiographic. Because even Fitzgerald in his life was not this the boy from this rich and prominent American family, but he fell in love with Zelda, which was the daughter of a judge of the high court and who was very rich. She rejected Fitzgerald just for the point because he could not afford her the lifestyle she was used to, and she then got engaged and married afterwards Fitzgerald, only after he had assured her for a stable and a rich lifestyle. So Fitzgerald, meanwhile, after Zelda rejected him, he wrote his first novel that is one of the masterpieces of the American novels, not only of the 1920s, but of all periods, that were the beautiful and the damned. Although all of his novels, at the very beginning, where they were first published, were criticized as shallow, were criticized as describing only rich people and rich families and their lifestyle, not only in America but even abroad, as we will see in A Tender is the Night. But in fact, they are more than that. They are more than just a description or a depiction of American rich families, American rich couples. So Fitzgerald himself, after having seen what being a rich person, what it was like to conduct a frenetic lifestyle, to go on a spending spree, to have a life of luxury, of party, and of alcohol, then he discovered that the American dream was not that shining, that glittering after all. In his novels, what he does is describing and making the reader conscious or aware of the decay of the American dream. So, even Tender is the Night is about these main themes of Fitzgerald. It was first published in 1933, and during all of his life, up to his death, Fitzgerald went on making a series of changes in his novels. in this novel, and he left it unfinished, in the sense that the novel was finished, but even when he died, he didn't think that the novel was complete and it was appropriate. He thought that the novel needed some changes as well. So the novel was divided into 3 books. So it is one whole novel, but divided into 3 books. In the first one, we are acquainted with this young new couple, that is Nicole and Dick Diver. They are rich, they are beautiful, they live this rich and luxurious lifestyle in the French Riviera. They have 2 children, and everything seems to go well in their family and in this couple. In the second book, but in the first book, we are then introduced to the decay and to the ruin of this marriage. Although the appearances are that this couple, they are in love with each other, everything goes well, they have no economic problems, they live this life without headaches, in the sense they have no problems to think what they are going to do tomorrow and where they are going to work. Everything for them is all right. They have this circle of friends that are all people from the high society. But in fact, after an incident occurs in this circle of friends, the reader is introduced with a new fact. Nicole, that is the wife of Dick Diver, she suffers from a mental breakdown. Dick Diver, in fact, is a psychologist, and he met Nicole when he worked as a psychologist in a clinic in a mental hospital in Zurich, in Switzerland, and there they fall in love. Nicole was very young and she suffered from these mental problems because she had been abused from her father. And later on we see that although Dick assumes the role of a husband, a father and the doctor of Nicole, we see that Nicole is then betrayed for all the males of her life, because later on, from the very first start, from the very beginning of the book, in the first book, we see we have this new character, that is Rosemary Hoyt. She's a young girl, a young beautiful starlet. She's an actress, a young actress, and she, together with her mother, are on vacation on the French Riviera, and then she gets to know Dick Diver, Nicole, and the rest of their friends. Rosemary, she's very young and she falls immediately in love with Dick, and he also is attracted to her because she's young and beautiful and attractive, but only in the second book do they consume their real love. So after Dick has betrayed Nicole, we see that the figure of female in this book, the figure of Nicole, the character of Nicole, is betrayed by all men of her life. So her father betrays her because he abuses of her. Her husband betrays her as well because he has an affair at the same time that they are married together. Then, in the third book, we see that Nicole, Dick starts to drink because of the problem he has in their marriage. He starts drinking. He then is involved in a riot in the conflict, and then is arrested by the police in Europe. And there he is taken out of jail from Baby Warren, that is the sister of Nicole, who in fact has always thought low of Dick. She has always thought that Dick married her sister because of her wealth, and not because he was really in love with her. In the end of the novel, Nicole asks Dick for a divorce because she wants to marry Tony Barban, which was a mercenary who, from the very start of the novel, who had fallen in love with Nicole. In the end, we see that this, because at the very beginning of the novel, we are introduced to the character of Dick, which was as a young, handsome psychologist with his brilliant future in front of him. But in the end, he ends up addicted to alcohols, drunk almost all the times. He is somewhere in America, but the author does not give us a clear position where he is. And he ends up working as a doctor in a small town in the countryside. So, the bottom line of all the novels, as all of his novels, is the fact that what at first seems the glittering American dream is not that glittering after all. So at the very beginning, Dick was in love with Nicole because she was beautiful, she was young, and sometimes, yes, of course, because she was rich. And this made things easier for them as a couple to go on and to live their lives. What is characteristic of, in general, of all Fitzgerald's novels and of Tender is the Night as well, is the fact that he was a very keen creator of the figure of female. So this novel is, we said that The Great Gatsby was autobiographic, and it really was. But Tender is the Night is a more autobiographic novel than Gatsby was, because in Tender is the Night, Fitzgerald aimed at describing the relationship, his life with Zelda, because we know that after they got married, they started to lead this frenetic lifestyle, traveling all around the world, drinking, spending their money, and very often they fell into economic and financial difficulties. So Zelda suffered from mental breakdown, and she had to be hospitalized. Fitzgerald's life was not easy together with on her side, because having a wife suffering from mental breakdown did interfere in his creativity and did not help him in writing novels and being productive. So he wanted to describe this life, the difficulties he had living with Zelda in the period she really was suffering from her mental breakdown. And so he made this parallel, he made this comparison between his life and Dick's life. He made this comparison between Zelda and Nicole in the novel. Not only did he want to describe the life that he led in this novel, but also he wanted to describe the female characters and the relationship they had with men. So, in general, in the novel, we see that there is a quotation, a phrase that Fitzgerald uses very often in this novel, that the women in this novel were all living in a man's world. It meant that these women were very dependent on their husbands or their partners. So Nicole was fully dependent on Dick, not only because she was his wife, but because she was his patient as well. She was mentally dependent on him. We also see even Rosemary Hoyt, although she was a young and beautiful girl, she was not engaged, she was not in a relationship, although she had too many young boys that went around her, inviting her to parties. She was not interested in them. She was interested in Dick Diver, although he was married. And the only female character who was not living inside a man's world, that man who was not in the search, or was not trying to find a relationship in order to be a captive of her partner, was the baby Warren, that is the sister of Nicole. And in fact, she remains unmarried, and this is significantly put like that in the novel by the author, up to the end of the novel. So because she refused, and because of her wealth, she always seeks at finding a relationship where men should depend on her, not women should be dependent on men. What else is characteristic of Fitzgerald's novel are also several themes. So we have the theme of war. We have the theme of war, and although the novel is in the 1920s, 1930s, and it describes, it happens, there are only a few passages which occur in America, although the characters are all American. All the events occurs, although the location of the novel is the French Riviera in Europe. So all this was in the aftermath of the war, and although Dick has never in fact taken part in any war, as he is a representative, as he is the comparison that Fitzgerald makes with himself, he connects himself through the Civil and the Revolutionary War, and then the Second World War, where Fitzgerald himself had taken place. We say that 10 Years a Night is fully autobiographic because it describes not only important event that happened in Fitzgerald's life. It was the changing of his lifestyle from a guy from a simple, we can't say poor family, but a simple family, to being a rich man and leading this tremendous lifestyle, but also the people that he got inspired to write 10 Years a Night were Sarah Murphy and his husband Fitzgerald Murphy, who were American people, but who led this lifestyle in the French Riviera. So they were the people who inspired Fitzgerald to write this novel. What else can be said about the novel is that we said that the novel is divided into 3 books. The first book, we have the introduction to this young couple, and at the very beginning we see that their marriage is going on all very well, so there's nothing wrong with them. But then we are acquainted to this problem the couple is having, although the appearances are far from that. In the second book, then we have Dick, which is suffering, who is feeling that his marriage is going into ruins, and then he starts drinking. He starts drinking, and he becomes a problem for the clinic where he works, up to the point that they dismiss him. So he no longer is allowed to work in this clinic. In the meantime, he gets to know he takes a notice that his father, who lives in America, dies, so he travels to America in order to take part to his funeral. But when he comes back, he meets Rosemary, and they consume their love there. But immediately after having consumed their love, Dick is made awareness how wrong this action was. Rosemary was very young, and Dick was not old, but comparing to her, he was much older. He had 2 children, not only was he married. So the fact that his father dies before the consuming of their love is significant in this novel, because it shows that their love, their relationship, was going to lead nowhere. So there was no future for this relationship. The beginning of the novel was we start the novel with an incest relationship.